Check one, check two, check three. System is recording. Um, oh shoot. There's realizing that from Kaizen or continuous improvement, there's the idea that we're trying to find ways to improve. One might be to not do this while driving. And you're like, ah, that's not happening. Just don't get anyone killed. And, I mean, it's more like the irregular traffic right now, irregular flow of traffic. There's noticing that one major thing I've noticed is that every time I get out of this app, it seems to want to kick me off of using the Bluetooth mic. And this headset makes a huge difference because we're going to upload the original clip I tried to learn from this morning and applying the principles of Kaizen going forward. It's like, hey, always do a little mic check to make sure we're using the right mic. Sorry, there's a selection process. So when it's set up like this, um, horizontally and held by the tripod like this, um, so it's like in selfie mode. It's two of the options are the iPhone mic versus the um, Bluetooth mic. And the Bluetooth mic is obviously the Bluetooth accessory, but the thing is that the mic does cut out a lot of sound, but and it has really good sound pickup, but it lacks the. You know what? I'm realizing that there's a sound gauge at the top. I'm like, I can make sure that I'm making my voice stay in a certain range. This is kind of cool. And smile. And it's these little nuances that can go together to make something effective. That being said, you're like, oh, here's the sarcasm. Yes. Yes, there is sarcasm. There's the I had gotten a phone call, and when I clicked out the phone call, I tried to press play, and it wouldn't go. And I didn't realize that until much later, and it said zero recording, and there's no time recorded in the upper left corner. I'm like, I was speaking for like 10 minutes. No. So, should probably have like a dashboard cam to just show like, hey, we're okay. We're moving our hands a little bit. The alignment's okay. And it's just, yeah. So with relationships and refinement and everything else, it's an ongoing process. And again, the willingness to go in spite of being not fully prepared is going to be the essence of a minimum viable product, and use that feedback to be like, hey, this sucks. You have a decent concept. Can you do this? It's like, yes, yes, I can. As opposed to putting time and effort into stuff that no one actually cares about. That's been done. What's a good example? I don't know, but it's out there. Um, Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined series version of it, there is a point where the Laura Rosalind, who's the um, sorry, I'm trying to adjust the thing here so it's not hitting against a little bit improvement. So if it was vibrating before, now it's wobbly. But you know, the sorry, I thought I heard a noise. I'm like, don't tell me that disconnected. So the pomp and circumstance surrounded around the uh, Secretary of Education becoming the president because the echelons of authority have been wiped out basically. So at this point, it's like a lone battle star or space battleship that's about to be space battleship carrier hybrid that's about to be decommissioned. Um, God, what was it called? No, there's a website that kind of does the clips and the lore of all these different things, and I'm blanking on it, and they're like, "No, I love your show. Don't blank on this. It's important." Um, but they mentioned that the Galactica is a space battleship carrier hybrid, as huge amounts of armor, heavy armament, and launches fighters and bombers. And so it's like, yeah, it's like it's cheating, but it's cool like that. Okay, so anyway, Laura Rosalind is now in charge of the last remnants of humanity, which out of several billion people, it's now like 50,000. Because the Silents have come in, nuked planets, and so it's just everything's lost, except for a few vessels out of the relative girth of humanity at that point that made it out. And, you know, the commander, um, Commander Adama, I believe, is his designation, and he's in charge of the fleet and of the Battlestar. He's trying to give her some pomp and circumstance. I think that's an expression. And she's like, I don't really want this, but, she goes through it anyway. And come to find out, he doesn't like it either, but he thought it would be nice to do for her and to kind of maintain some sort of tradition. So, yes, there is an essence or idea of doing stuff that's unnecessary. Coming to relationships, you know, um, what do you need more of me, less of me, and, you know, can you talk openly with someone? Once you find the right person, how do you keep it going? Because you need tools, right? Can you talk with each other? Can you bring up a concern like without them getting defensive? I'm probably borrowing from Jimmy on relationships, and he had some brilliant material and probably snagging that as well as other things, especially for this commentary here. It's, what tools do you do to make your relationship work? Do you, come at them with love, where it's like, hey, um, I'm not even sure what that looks like because I'm dealing with stuff sometimes with people, and I want to come off more loving, but I can be stubborn, as in like, all right, let's go, but then it's like I care about you, and then it's let's not damage the relationship, but then it's my needs get put under or their needs may get put under, and now one side seems to be happy, but the other one isn't, and that festers and causes an issue. So learning how to have conflict where you both see different sides or approach things differently and be able to bring that up in discussion without being defensive means that now we can discuss stuff or that might be past hurts and issues or wounds that now it's just I have to look at some things and ask when I was bringing up something to someone, like they seem to cut off stuff really quickly, and it's a question of like, hey, was this connecting in with a wound from earlier? Because it's like that's not where I'm trying to go, and so I'm trying to learn to create a more positive kind of loving environment. It's like, but at the same time, it's like let's deal with this so that way we can both get more. Um, Again, keep it nice, keep it good. This is someone you care about. You shouldn't be trying to go fisticuffs. It's like, hey, let's discuss these things and work on a good solution for both of us. There's a problem. Let's work on the problem and have something that brings us together closer, better, and more effectively. Um, Psychological safety, I think, was what Jimmy mentioned, and probably a few different people. Can I talk with you? Do I feel safe talking? Do you feel safe talking? So we can air grievances or concerns without the other person, getting defensive. John Gottman was mentioning the idea of, you know, you're going to have conflict, but do you have like a soft startup? And that's probably something I need to apply. Like, it's a nice day today. You know what? I like to be able to enjoy time with you, and maybe what I can do is I can do grocery shopping for us earlier, so that way we have time to go enjoy the day together, and you get your groceries. We can do a little picnic thing. Then we can get you home, so that way you can get some rest, and everything just blends together to where you're good. Everyone's good. But again, the thing is that if it's left kind of festering, right? Um, Now it's like when that issue's brought up, like, hey, you know, I would do my time, but the last time I did this, like, I kind of got taken advantage of, and now it's like, okay, now everyone's defensive. So it's learning those tools to be able to have those, I guess the book would be crucial conversations, where emotions can run high, stakes are high, and, you know, what you say can and will be used against you. At least that sounded witty. The Yeah, that goes into once you have the person. But now, what does a good person look like? And there's your preferences, right? Blonde, brunette. Do they like to exercise? Um, do they like to grow personally? Uh, what are your red flags and your green flags? Red flags are in like, oh, okay, that don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. If they get angry at everyone but you, you know, that's weird. Um, that's probably something to keep in mind. Someone gives the example of they're mean to the waitress. You know, they have something to gain from you. There's a reason why you put your best face forward with some people, but how they treat other people that don't have any way to get back to them, that shows who they are, their character. That's another thing. Sorry, I was thinking earlier about obviously having a phone to switch through to do digital notes. And sorry, there's that slight discouragement at the moment because it's like, okay, you're right. You deserve better input, better information. I should be focusing on that. Again, this is to get forward because the last time I made material was 2 years ago. And before that, it was like a long stint of nothing. So you're right. It's okay. What traits should we be looking for? What are the preferences? You know what that is. Like, can they cook? Can they clean? You know, can can I talk to them is probably more like, do I have stuff that I enjoy talking with them with versus the I can bring up a problem with you and we can discuss it together and we're both willing to work with each other to bring out a solution. Or, you know, are they a giver or are they a taker from Adam Grant's Givers and Takers? There's three types of people. Obviously, the middle one can be used as a joke reference, but that's not the point. There's givers, takers, and like kind of even. And if you're a natural giver, you have to be careful with takers because some may be manipulative or that just might be their default setting. And so if you find another person that's a natural giver, you'll have a situation where everyone is giving and just blows up in a good way. And but if one person gives and the other takes, that I give, and so there's are they taking out of me or are I giving to them? And so there's a key difference there. Um, Sorry, it's like one of those like don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. So, you know, I may not remember what I'm doing today. But there's instances where I'll do stuff for people and it's maybe considered above and beyond on occasion that's happened. And the thing is that, for me, it's not them asking or telling me to do it. It's more like, hey, let's go. I'm not expecting anything. But when there's a demand placed on me and it's pulled out and nothing's put back in, now it goes from being a natural giving and a gift to being taken advantage of. And so you want to make sure you watch out for that. Um, Adam Grant mentioned that if a giver can do that and watch out who to give more of themselves and how to regulate that natural proclivity, you'll go far in the business world because it's givers that actually rise up to the top. It's just getting past that initial being bruised and taken advantage of. Use some wisdom or discernment, or at least learn to pull back and do like a give and take. Something I have to learn to do. The other things, right? I love the story from Firefly. It's a TV show, and there's a priest, and it's a science fiction show. It takes place in the future on this small ship called Serenity, and this priest and doctor are talking. You know, futuristic modern facility, but it's a small crew, like 7 or 8 people. I think more like 7. And the priest is talking with the doctor. Doctor's intent on his task, and the priest is mentioning this person from history. It's a Chinese name, and so that's more meant to say like I'm not going to try to pronounce it because it's not like it's Bob. It's like Sheng Yu, right? And that might be an actual name of a person. But in this example, he's discussing the writings of that individual, and the individual in question mentioned that you spend time with a person, like for 4 years. You play cards with them. You spend every waking moment with them. You spend time around them, having dinner, hanging out with their family. Well, the time that you hang them over a volcano is the time you truly meet the man. And you're like, okay. And the doctor's like going busy at his work, focused. And he's like, what if you don't have a volcano? And the doctor's like, or the priest is like, I'm sure he is being poetic. Yeah, poetic prose from Psychotic Dictator makes it perfectly better. And the priest is like, I wonder what he was thinking when he wrote those lines. And in the next scene, you see this space mafia person totally butchering this. I forgot the name of the episode, but it's a fun one. Uh, and he's discussing it. He's the space mafia person is torturing someone now, and you see this guy bloodied, scarred up, and everything else. And the the space mafia person is like, "Have you heard of the name Sheng Yu? And I wonder what sort of person you are on the inside. Who are you really? Let's meet the real you." Totally butchered that, but nailed it. And okay, so we switch scenes, and the crew are now all together. They're hanging out with each other, and the captain and the first mate are sharing war stories. And the husband is jealous, who's also the pilot, and you know, the pilot Wash, he's married to the first mate Zoe, and she's like the warrior Amazon woman kind of thing. She's tough as nails, really cool character, and you know, Wash is jealous. He's like, I want war stories. How do I know you guys didn't do anything together? And spoiler alert, at the end of the episode, you know, Mal, the captain, jokes with, like, says Zoe, okay, I'm ordering you to get it on. And both of them were like just not even remotely even engaged with that. They're really forcing each other to get together, and then Wash breaks it up and takes his wife. And but before all that, um, Wash and the captain go do a small errand adventure together because Wash is like, "Hey, you guys get all the adventures. I want in." And the captain's like, "Okay, okay." They go down to the planet. Wash is now carrying this huge trunk of stuff that they stole from a medical facility. And, Wash collapses with it in a heap. And he's like, "Captain, like, does my wife do all of this?" And Captain's like, "Yeah, that's what she does. That's why I bring her." It's a dry humor sort of thing, so you can laugh. But the thing is that the space mafia guy heard about the deal and crashed it. He ambushed them and abducts them, and he ends up torturing them. And all the while, as they're getting tortured, the captain is trying to raise up the spirits of Wash, telling jokes, keeping him encouraged, and singing. And after all this is said and done, a deal goes down, and they're able to get back one of the people, and the space mafia guy, because he got burned by them before. He's like, "You have enough money for one person. Which will it be?" And it's a dramatic lead up, and she's like, "I want my husband. That's it. That's all." And as he gets given back to them, completely wrecked, the space mafia guy cuts off the ear of the captain, tosses it because it's like, "You paid too much. Here, let me give you a refund." You know, and it's kind of mortifying. But then, as they're all together on the ship, minus the captain, the Wash looks at Zoe, looks at the first mate, and is like, "Who is he? Like, who's the captain? I don't know who he was or who he is because while we were being tortured, he was singing, he was telling jokes, he was trying to keep me encouraged during that time, and it's like for hours." And, it's a long way of saying that we don't know who we're dealing with until we'll go through those trials and tribulations. It's easy to maintain. Sorry, I'm looking at a car behind me. It's like, "You're coming up really quickly," and they stopped, and it's just like, ah. But the thing is that in that instance, right, where my boogers are probably being picked up by the camera, you're you're trying to figure out like who a person is, and sometimes you don't know who a person is until they go through a trial or tribulation with you, or when the veneer of not reciprocity, but the veneer of being nice falls off. The real world and road rules, I think, were based on those premises. What happens when people get real, right? And you keep them together, and so then you see their character and who they are. Um, oh, okay. So the vehicle is off to the side and being towed. Uh, Brake. So coming back. Oh, excuse me. Only in darkness are we revealed, right? That's from Doctor Who. Goodness is goodness in the final hour, in the deepest pit, without hope, without witness, without reward. Virtue in its extremis, right? And the quote finishes out by like the Rubber Song was writing it, and she's like, "That's why I love him, my madman in a box." So that that person's solid, right? That's character. So you want someone that's honest. You want someone that's willing to commit to you, that isn't going to waffle between anything else. Um, there's a biblical scripture that says, "You shall know them by their fruits." You shall like you can't get thistles from an apple tree, right? Well, Okay, barring any genetic modification. And, strawberries, right? You can't get from an orange tree. You can't get good fruit from a bad tree or bad fruit from a good tree. If you do, that indicates that something's different. So it's being mindful of looking for that fruit. You know, is there love? Is there patience? What is love? And so Corinthians has a lot of scripture, and so I guess going forward we'll probably come back to this and do a much more structured version of it, which would be fun. And you're like, oh, he can teach and he can actually communicate stuff in a very coherent fashion. Yeah, this is off the top of the head, if you haven't noticed. And again, testing. So let's go ahead and finish out with saying that character is what is when no one else is looking. So if they take shortcuts because no one else is looking, that's safe to assume that that's probably how they're going to be. Steve Furtick was like you, married their habits, not their potential. So what you see them being like right now, they may swear to change. Okay, let them change, but away from you, right? Let them grow, let them develop. If you're a Christian, they said, let me change to get close to God and, I can follow this God. Good, you can do it over there. I'm going to be single and waiting and growing. And if God says go for it, like, okay, you can put up what's called a boundary. And boundaries are a good point for one. The essence of one is to say that there are certain things that should be kept out. But at the same time, you should be able to let people in, giving them access, but keeping the wrong ones out. And the more access that you're willing to give someone, it's having boundaries to prevent that from being taken advantage of. Whether it's physical, financial, emotional, or your time and energy. You know, Going back to the givers and takers, boundaries. And, if they have an issue with that boundary, like, hey, I'm not going to do this or that, and they blow up at you after you explain why you have the boundary, that's probably something that would constitute a red flag. You know, um, to be fair, some people may just get upset with it, but understand because maybe it's you're helping with a project and they can really use your help. Maybe you're withdrawing at the completely wrong time, right? But if it's like there's no pressing matters, it's like, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing this anymore, and they have a connection fit, that's probably a red flag thing. A green flag would be like they respect that and say like, you know what, that's fair. I'm kind of hurt or upset, but you know what, you're doing what makes sense for you, and I'll love you on that point. Love is not necessarily self-serving. We have a lot of different definitions of love, and understanding that, then you want to find one that focuses on not what they can get out of it, because you can have that feeling, and but at the same time, it's based on what have they pulled out of the relationship as opposed to what have they given. Um, or they might have a dysfunctional sense of what love is. It's that emotional feeling, like, and I kind of go with the idea of it being more like a verb. Ideally, you're able to combine the feeling of it, like that joy of giving and pouring in, with the idea that you're having a relationship and you're also getting back. And there's this interplay here that you're growing with each other, you're edifying each other, you're encouraging each other, and things just get better intentionally. And when stuff falls down, you're there to pick each other up. And if you both focus on giving as much as you can and being there when the other person can't, then you're like, okay, that ties in with the communication, which, if you don't have that going on effectively, and it can be learned. A lot of things, it's, sorry, I was going to say if there's no brain damage, right? There's, words, okay. So there's a story about a guy that had a railroad spike gone through his head and he lived. But he went from being a very civil and nice person to just having a lot of issues and like just angry and all this mess. And so everyone now pushed away from him. And the thing is that it's admitting that stuff like that can happen. And the thing is that under normal conditions, you should be able to make a decent relationship, right? Assuming that there's respect, that you have a healthy sense of what love is, that you have a healthy sense of boundaries, that you are willing to connect with each other and communicate and work on problems instead of accusing each other of issues. And you should be able to have a successful relationship. Now, there might be things where you might drift apart because you guys don't focus on touching base with each other and growing in particular directions or staying in touch with each other and reconnecting because times change and you need to always put that partner as a priority. And there may be times when you have to pull away, but it's, have you left a good, strong foundation of investment where, momentary lapses of that love daily is not going to cause either side to go like, no, I love you. And, looking at the eye contact and everything else, it's like, right? Or like, hey, you're amazing, right? That filling the love tank, but at the same time, it's now beyond that, it's what does that really mean? So, faith without actions or deeds is dead. Um, you could say the same thing with love. So just make sure that there's a backing up of, not just necessarily intention, but of heart there. Later.